Democrats desperately search for a way to impeach President Trump. Bernie Sanders is admitted into the hospital, and we check the latest polls. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the Guy in the Freedom Show. Alrighty guys, I hope everyone has had a great week so far. Happy Friday. We have a lot to get to today, so let's not waste too much time here. So once again, just like last week, the news cycle is just garbage. We are once again, we're still going through this whole Trump-Ukraine situation. And as we went through this last week, and so yeah, as I predicted, it's still gonna go, and it's probably still going, and still probably gonna keep going. So, as a recap for those who don't really remember, all of this really started back in 2016 with Joe Biden, and the allegation is that Joe Biden allegedly, basically, was pressuring Ukraine. Really, he actually asked Ukraine to fire a certain prosecutor who, according to what he said, was very corrupt. And what he did was he basically threatened to withhold taxpayer money to them in order to get this prosecutor fired. And now the allegation is that he did this in order to protect his son from any prosecution. And that were true, that would be very criminal, and then he should pay the consequence for that. But as of right now, there's no real evidence of that so far, but it still needs to be investigated. And it's funny, Democrats have no drive to actually investigate this whole matter, only Republicans. So, but we'll get to that a little later. So basically, all this leads to within the last few weeks, with this whole Trump called the Ukrainian president, asking the president to investigate Joe Biden. Now, as I said last week, the president should not be calling foreign leaders to investigate their political opponents. I don't care if it's a Democratic president or a Republican president. They should not be doing that. That's very, very bad. But there's nothing, as we saw last week. I read the entire transcript. There's nothing criminal that's been proved so far. There's no, in the transcript, you can go back and read it yourselves. There's nothing that suggests a quid pro quo. All that looks like to me is just really Trump mouthing off, and as he usually does, and really it's the Ukrainian president trying to butter up Trump for some kind of deal. So, and basically throughout the entire week, the whole quid pro quo and the impeachment narrative has just been collapsing like crazy. So, regarding the quid pro quo, basically it was revealed that Ukrainian president didn't know about this whole the U.S. actually withholding foreign aid. They didn't know about the whole thing. So I mean, if that's the case, that completely destroys the entire quid pro quo narrative. So, and I realized actually today there was a new update for this whole that kind of raises some more questions about the whole quid pro quo thing. I'm not going to read through the entire thing because it's about 25 pages long, but it's basically gist of it. By the way, I will have it in the link. I have a link to it in the description, so you can read it for yourselves. I mean, it is 25 pages long, so yeah, I'm not going to the entire thing. Basically, it is basically text that happen between different people in the administration and Ukrainian administration about that raises more questions about this whole quid pro quo thing. And so basically what needs to happen right now is all the texts need to be released, because right now we don't have all the text. We have just little interpretations. We have some text and then democratic interpretations of it. So again, with the transcript, we need the entire thing. So hopefully, and this whole thing came from Democrats. So hopefully if they have had the whole transcript of text, they'll release it soon. But of course, my opinion this whole thing is that I haven't seen any evidence that supports any type of quid pro quo. I could be very wrong. I don't know yet, but I just haven't seen any evidence of it. And by the way, like I said last week, if there is evidence does come up for a quid pro quo that will be criminal against President Trump, and he should be impeached. But again, as right now, we have not seen any evidence of this. So my opinion of this whole new revelation that came out today is basically, once again, it's basically Trump mouthing off and then his people in his administration trying to defend him. And that's really Trump's big defense against this whole entire thing. But the dude mouths off a lot. He says a lot of dumb stuff, quite a bit, pretty much every single day. So this whole idea that, I kind of think this whole him asking Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, I don't think he was really that serious about that whole thing. Maybe he was, but I don't know. I don't think he was incredibly serious about it because Ukraine haven't really gotten into it too much. So, and plus, again, we haven't seen evidence of anything Trump actually pressuring them to do it in order to get something else. And then, okay, so again, I think it's just Trump mouthing off. He always does this. So that's his biggest defense, and I think the American people will see that because if you're on Twitter or any social media, you see his stuff all the time. And again, he doesn't help himself when he goes ballistic on Twitter. This past week, he's gone on a full Twitter rampage. It is justified by all means, but it's not advisable to constantly keep going and going and going because it makes it look like you're panicking that they'll find something on you. But then again, he did that same thing with the whole Russian thing, and they found nothing on him. So as we see here, it's a common thing with President Trump. The biggest worry that people had with Trump after he was elected president is that he was very nice with Vladimir Putin, who's the president of Russia. But as we saw throughout his presidency, he's like that with everyone. He's trying to butter up Kim Jong-un. He's the Saudi Arabia leader, prince or whatever. I forget his name. And then the president of China, which is President Xi or sorry, I forget their names, but it's hard to pronounce. But anyways, he's like that with everybody, and it's kind of his nature. He was a reality TV star. He ran his business just like that for years. So instead of this whole thing he's an evil genius who's working under the radar to try to manipulate the election, whatever. No, he's a reality star who runs a real estate business. This is how he operates. He's from New York, so and people from New York say that his personality is not uncommon in New York. So this whole thing where people are saying, I'm all shocked when he says weird stuff and stupid stuff on Twitter. Where have you been for the last 3 years? He's done this on a regular basis. But then again, I think that's really people who are really outraged by this whole thing is Democrats, and I honestly don't think they're really that outraged. They're just trying to build up some kind of fake outrage to use against President Trump. And especially with this whole impeachment thing, they are desperately searching for any way possible to try to impeach the president. First they have one good narrative, which was the whole quid pro quo thing. And again, as we've seen, there's nothing that supports the quid pro quo, like really nothing so far. So they went for that, saying, oh, he had a cover up. There's no evidence of that either. In fact, like, there's like counter evidence against that. He made the entire transcript like available. He released and like unredacted, and he released the entire like witness, the whistleblower complaint. So this whole idea that he's like somehow covering this up is completely nonsense. The only like thing that Democrats have on that situation is where earlier, like after the call and the whistleblower came out, basically the administration was trying to keep it in a certain like within a certain group of people, because their main reason to do that was because they feared like leaks, which is very understandable. Leaks are there's the leaking like in this administration has been crazy. Like there's like many people in this administration who desperately want to leak everything that the president says or does in like private meetings, which is like completely is dumb. And the president really has every right really to like stop that from happening. And honestly, he had every right to not release this transcript, because it was in part of executive privilege. In fact, every other president would have kept it secret. And the fact that he released it tells me that at least he doesn't think that anything criminal happened. So, like I said, but then again, we have to wait and see if anything else comes out with it. But as of right now, again, there's nothing. So, like so we have the quid pro quo, which is falling apart. The cover-up has fallen apart. So now Democrats are reaching for this whole, oh, Trump is mean to Democrats. Like, he's very loudmouth and all that, which, okay, again, where have y'all been for the last 3 years? He has done this on a frequent basis. And that's not criminal. That's not impeachable. You can't impeach someone because they say something. You can't do that. I'm sorry. And the American people will not go for that. Now, I think in the end, President Trump will probably be impeached. As of right now, the impeachment whole enthusiasm has fallen, but I think it still will happen mainly because of Nancy Pelosi. Like, she used to really be against impeachment, but now she's come out in full favor of impeachment. So it most likely will happen, and I think it will backfire on Democrats eventually in a big way. Maybe it will win. This will be the big cause of them losing the 2020 election. We just don't know. But I think the biggest reason why this whole this whole push for impeachment is happening is not because of this whole Ukraine thing. Like, I seriously doubt that Democrats genuinely care about this whole Ukraine thing, because as a matter of fact, their fellow Democrats have done it themselves. Hillary Clinton back in 2016 did the exact same thing. She went to Ukraine to get up dirt on President Trump, who was then candidate Trump, and then to influence the 2016 election. Of course, Democrats wanted to ignore that, in every way they can. So, and then there's this whole thing where I lost track. But anyways, yeah, this whole, Hillary asks has Ukraine to investigate Trump, and then we have Joe Biden coming in and asking Ukraine to get rid of a certain prosecutor. So this is not uncommon between politicians. It's bad, but it's not uncommon, and Democrats are just as guilty as this is President Trump. So again, I doubt they actually care about that. I think their main goal is to not only get President Trump out of office, but to really try to kick conservatives as a whole off the air. Because that's been their main goal for years at this point. As we recall, like before President Trump was even a thing, throughout like the entire presidency of Obama, like the media was just absolutely horrible to conservatives. Like they're calling conservatives racist, bigots, homophobes, or just whatever. And the problem, and the thing is, conservatives have a tendency to say, okay, like they want to in response be kind of nice and polite to them, which is not, it's not a bad thing to kind of be respectful to others, but there comes a certain point where you do need to kind of fight back. And just for years, conservatives have getting beaten down by the media, and to the point where they had enough. So that's why President Trump came along. Because basically Trump was this big giant middle figure to the media, saying, okay, screw you. You've been calling us for 8 years, racist, bigots, homophobes, or whatever. And so, alright, just screw you. We're gonna let the guy who, yes, he has a loud mouth and says stupid crap, but at least he fights against y'all. So, here you go. And what happened? He won the presidency. And the left just went insane. Because they had to fight against someone who fights back. Because they're not used to it. So, and again, their main goal is to kick conservatives off the air in general. You see this every single day with Media Matters. Every single day, especially there's someone. And basically, what Media Matters is this left-wing, garbage organization where they follow certain conservative sites and trying to pinpoint something to build up some kind of fake outrage. And they do this on a frequent basis. In fact, one of the sites is the Daily Wire. This one guy is in charge of watching the Ben Shapiro show, the Michael Knowles show, and the Matt Walsh show, and the Andrew Klavan show every single day. They're trying to pinpoint something to build up some kind of fake outrage. And they always find a little something to take out of context. And again, the main goal is to kick them off the air. So, and another way they kind of do this is to get boycotts against these sites. They do it with they did it with Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham on Fox. They called up the advertisers to get them off the air, to stop advertising with them. And the thing with I can't blame the advertisers for doing that, because they want to avoid any kind of any bad situation they can, any conflict they can. So that's why they usually try to comply with what the leftists want. But the problem is they can't do that. When they keep on doing that, it's going to cause such an outrage against these organizations, advertisers, that they will probably go out of business because someone has created an alternative. And there's many Democrats in the presidential candidacy right now that's in favor of this too. Kamala Harris, for example, she came out recently in favor of banning President Trump on Twitter. And I'm not in favor of banning anyone from Twitter, no matter how bad they are. And this whole idea that Twitter, or really the government, should be in charge of what's being said, what can be said, and who can be said on social media, that's kind of frightening in a way. I don't trust anyone in Silicon Valley or really in the government to fairly unbiasedly like use this whole tactic. I just don't trust him with that. So like in the end, though, like I said, I think this will backfire on Democrats. I mean, it's not good for President Trump for him to do this, but I don't think it'll really do any real damage to him. It may do a little bit, but not enough to exactly cost him the 2020 election. So, I mean, we have to wait and see. We're still like almost a year away from the 2020 election. So, we'll see. A lot can happen in a year. And as we know, the news cycle moves about 1,000 years a minute. So, we shall see. So, in other news, Bernie Sanders, within the last couple of days, was admitted into the hospital for like some heart problems. So, let's see. According to ABC News, on Tuesday night, when Bernie Sanders was in Las Vegas on Tuesday night, during the campaign event yesterday evening, Senator Sanders experienced some chest discomfort following medical evaluation and testing. He was found to have blockage in one artery or two, and two stents were safely inserted. Especially what happened was he had a blockage in one of his arteries, like I said. So, I mean, from the looks of it, he is doing good so far, and I'm glad. I do not wish any ill will against anybody. And in the like, no matter like if they disagree with me or not, I don't wish any ill will against anybody. So now my prayers go out to him during this time, and I hope he does make a good recovery. And it looks like he is. He's like actually come out saying like he's ready to get back to work, and will attend the 2020, the October Democratic debate. So that's good news. And so yeah, speaking of the kind of 2020 election, the polls, I guess some latest polls that I wanted to kind of talk about is mainly about Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden. Like, I know I've said this like kind of a few times throughout the last like couple weeks or so, but like it's like it keeps on happening. And so basically, Joe Biden over the last like few weeks or so has like dramatically dropped in the primary polling. So according to the Emerson polling, and this is the national, is as of September 21st to the 23rd. So right now, Biden is still in the lead with a 25%, but Warren is like close behind with 23%. That's insane. Like last month, like Joe Biden had about 35, and Warren had about 20%. That was a huge gap. That huge gap disappeared within a month. And then in some states like California, New Hampshire, and Iowa, Biden has lost the lead completely. And I think this whole like Ukraine thing does not help him at all. And that's the reason why he's dropping so fast. So, yeah, I don't see Biden making out of this alive. I think he's done. But again, a lot can happen within a year, so we shall see. But I think, like I said last week, in the end, Warren will be the nominee. And like while conservatives shouldn't be too sanguine to stay home because they're too sanguine, conservatives do need to come out and vote President Trump. But in the end, I don't see President Trump losing to Warren, because Warren is just all over the place. Honestly, like she's not honest about her views. Like she says like she's for like Medicare for all and all these socialist ideas. But if she comes out in the general election and starts going to the middle, like acting like some kind of moderate, whatever, she's done. Because she'll like show herself to be very inconsistent with her views, and the American people will see right through that. So yeah, we shall see what happens. I know I keep saying that we shall see, but I can't predict the future. All I can go is by the evidence right now. What could happen? But again, many things can change throughout 1 year, and it can change throughout a whole entire day. So yeah, but as of right now, I think Warren will be the nominee. Alrighty, so I think that's like the gist of what the topic was today. So let's get into a little bit of a scripture for now. We're going to be in John chapter 2. Okay, so basically John chapter 2 is basically if you read the John, you know this is basically the Jesus' first miracle. This is the whole wedding where he turns water into wine. And so like, and here's not gonna read the entire chapter, just like kind of the first gist of it, mainly partly the wedding part. But here it goes. You can follow me along if you want. And by the way, I am reading off the New Living Translation, if you want to kind of follow along better, in a way. So, next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." Then Jesus replied, "Dear woman, that's not our problem. My time's not yet come." But his mother told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Standing nearby were 6 stone water jugs, used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And when the jars had been filled, he said, "Now dip some out and take it to the master of ceremonies." So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water, that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. A host always serves the best wine first. Then when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine. But you have kept the best until now. The miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed him. After the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples. So, like, pretty much everybody who's like knows anything about the Gospels or anything about really Jesus in the tiniest form knows about this miracle. Like, honestly, you don't even have to be Christian to really know this, but there's like a deeper meaning behind this whole miracle. So basically, as you recall, back when Jesus was telling the servants to fill up the jugs with water and dip some out and all that, take it to the master of ceremonies. The servants didn't know what was happening. They didn't know that the water will turn into wine. But they followed his instructions anyway, because they trusted him that they trusted his instructions that this, like, some kind of miracle would happen. And that, like, this kind of really illustrates of how, like, we as Christians should live our lives, following Jesus. Like, while, like, we don't know what's coming, we don't know the future, but we should trust, God anyways. We should trust that He, like, has a plan for all of us, and that He will determine our steps in any sort of way, and that we need to like follow His path, even that we don't know where it's going. We still need to we should still follow it. because it would end with some incredible blessing. Like recently, there was this whole kind of impersonal family right now. This whole situation that's caused like kind of it's a big kind of shock to all of us. It's like kind of big downturn, but in the end, like I think this will turn to something good. So, yes, it is kind of difficult right now, but like everybody in my family believes that this will turn into something better than the situation before, and it always does. It always is always like that. So yeah, like I said last week, John is an incredible book. I encourage y'all to really go through it. I mean, yeah, I've studied it with a small group myself. It's a really good book, and there's a lot of deeper meanings behind stuff that you don't really see when you go through it like all at once. When you study about chapter by chapter, there's always these cool little like deeper meanings behind it. So yeah, again, I encourage y'all to go through it and like again, go through chapter by chapter, and really verse section by section, really, to get the kind of full meaning of it. All right, so let's get into some good stuff of the week and some kind of bad stuff of the week. So some good stuff of the week. All right, so this is a really incredible story, like really incredible. It's very moving, and just it's amazing. Okay, so if you recall, about a few months back or so, I forget when exactly this happened, but basically there was this cop named Amber Geiger, who was just got off her shift and was turning home to her apartment, and then she had actually gotten into the wrong apartment, and she saw this guy in there named Botham Jean, and then of course, she thought this was her apartment, so she thought he was an intruder, and then she took out her gun and shot him to death. But of course, it turns out that was Botham's apartment, and not Amber's. Amber's was actually like on the floor above. So yeah, it was basically, it turned this whole like racial thing that she shot him for racial reasons, that she like she's a racist and everything. I don't see that being the case. I think it was a whole, as I see, it's a whole misunderstanding in a way. Yes, it's very bad. Like she should have been awake enough to actually see, okay, this is not my apartment. But in the fact that like took out her gun and shot him, it's a bad situation, no doubt. But is it racial? I don't see that. And so basically, she went through trial and all that. She got about 10 years in prison for it, which I think is an appropriate sentence. I think maybe she should have gotten a little longer, but it's not. This was not like cold-blooded murder. Like she didn't like just walk in with the intent of killing him. It was really, and by all accounts, really manslaughter in a way. But she was charged with just regular murder. But that's not the whole point of the story. So basically, the main point of the story is after the trial, and then when she was being sentenced, the brother of Botham Jean came up to testify, and it did something incredible. So basically, he said that he had forgiven her for what she had done, and that he hopes for the best for her, and that he didn't even want her to go to jail for this. And basically, he went up to her and hugged her, embraced her, and he said he wants like the best thing for her is to give her life to Christ. This right here, this was a really moving story when I saw it. It was like, I almost got a little teary-eyed from watching it. It's just so incredible, like how this is how like the Christian life is, or should be led. Of course, that we are not all perfect. We perfect in His walk. Like, not all of us can be able to achieve this perfectly. But thing like this is a perfect example of how it should happen. Like here we have a guy who lost his brother in a very bad situation, and most people would have a major grudge against the killer for years to come. But here we have this guy who basically said, "Okay, I forgive you for this. Like, I know you did something bad, but I forgive you. I don't even want you to go to jail for over this." Like, if everybody like lived their life like that, it would be a so much better world. It would be a whole better world. And of course, there's some like negative comments and like backlash against the whole thing. Like, how dare he like forgive her? That is because like, he's doing it for like racial reasons or whatever. But of course, that's not true. And there's some people like ignorant saying like, there's nothing in the Bible that says we should forgive like people who murder our families. Wrong. Like, there's many stuff in the Bible that says we should forgive. Like, for example, in Matthew 6-14. For if you forgive men when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their forgive men and their sins, for your Father will not forgive your sins. And then in Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving to one another as God forgave you. So basically, there's so much in the Bible that says that we should forgive others, just as God's forgiven us. Because think about this: we were just as wicked as like we were like all very wicked, but then like God still forgave us, forgave our sins, and all that. Like, as long as you gave your life to Christ, he forgave your sins. So like, if God is really willing to do that for us, like, and keep in mind, like, God is a perfect God. Like, he is the true definition of good. Like, and like humans, of course, they have their own little tiny definitions of what's good and what's bad or whatever. But in reality, God has the true definition of good. And like, we humans don't really live up to that most of the time. But he still like loves us and like loves us enough to just like sin, come down from his glory, and become flesh, and to take the sacrifice, take the like punishment that we deserved, and then died on the cross. And 3 days later, he was resurrected from the dead, and that gave us this free gift of grace, that we can actually know God and know Jesus without the burden of like the law or whatever. So if he's like willing to do that, why can't like we, as flawful human beings with many like flaws and all that, like, why can't we forgive someone who sins against us? Like, yeah, it just makes no sense when people say like we can't forgive like this certain guy or whatever. And it doesn't make sense when people say like, certain people, like, God wouldn't save like certain people even if they gave their life to Christ, whatever. Like, and then like there's this whole like controversy where saying like, people saying like, would God like save Hitler if he gave us like if he asked for forgiveness and repented? And the correct answer is yes. But of course, that's very controversial with everybody. Like, how dare you say that? But that's true. It is true. If you're like truly repent of your sins and like give your life to Christ, he will forgive you. So like, again, like, it really doesn't make sense why like we humans like shouldn't at least practice that. Again, this was an incredible story, and I encourage y'all. I will have the link to the actual video for y'all to see in the description, to like really get the entire emotion of the video, because like I can't really describe it. describe it well. You just have to watch for yourselves. All right, let's get into a little bit bad stuff of the week. So basically, some bad stuff of the week. Earlier this week, actually, there was this whole situation where it was at a school called Emmanuel Christian School, and it's actually it still happens to be the same school where Mike Pence's wife Karen works at. And as you recall, there's this whole controversy like back in January where like this school want to hire like gay teachers, whatever, because again like these are Christian schools, so they have certain standards that the teachers should live by. But there's whole controversy about that and how Karen Pence was involved and all that. So this school was already being targeted by the left. So anyways, there was this whole situation where this student there, who was in 6th grade, basically claimed that these 3 white boys at the school pinned her down and then she proceeded to cut off her hair and call her names like ugly and all that, and it turned into this massive controversy and like about like how this was like a racist school and that needs to be shut down and the campus should be held responsible and all that. But as it turns out, it was false. The student completely made up a story. There was no evidence, no video evidence that it happened, and she came out and fully admitted that it was wrong. It was false. So here we have again where the left again takes a story that's like very like kind of vague, has really no evidence, and before all the facts come out, they completely take it and blow it up. As you recall, this exact thing happened with Judge Smollett. Like, if you recall that whole situation, he claimed that while he was walking at 2 a.m. in Chicago, holding a Subway sandwich, and this is the middle of Chicago, by the way. Basically, he claimed that he was attacked by 2 Trump supporters and poured bleach on him and beat him, like tell him this is MAGA country and whatever. As it turns out, that was a completely false story. In fact, he hired the 2 hitmen to attack him, and they actually, the 2 men were his like trainers, personal trainers, whatever, and they were African American themselves, and they painted themselves white. So this was a whole like setup to try to basically get kind of a raise out of, like, he was on a show called Empire, and he was trying to get a raise out of the showrunners. And he was, sorry, ignore that, but sorry, he was rightly fired from the show. So, and here we have again a similar situation where someone makes up a story, the media blows up, and then it turns out to be false. And this is why it's important to wait for all the facts before we make a judgment. I try to live this out as much as I can, because I've seen many times what happens when outrage forms before the actual evidence comes out. So yeah, it's a horrible story, and I think the students should be punished for making up this false claim. And really, the media should form some kind of apology to them, to the 3 students. Alrighty, so I think that's all I have for today. So, before I go, if you want to delve your mind into this world of politics, and for some reason, and you want to really get more knowledgeable about certain areas, well, yes, you can go to the library or go to the store or whatever, trying to find these things, but the problem is you won't always find everything at the store or whatever. Like, you can go to many bookstores, you won't find the certain thing you're looking for. You have to go all over town. You have to maybe go like out of, like, say from Athens to Atlanta to try to find something. Well, have you tried, like, here's the thing. There's this thing called the interweb. And on the interweb, there's this site called Amazon. Amazon, like, has so many different products where you can, Amazon is great. Like, you can find so many products that you could find at a store. Like, for example, books. You can find books at Amazon that you can find at a store. And it's much easier to get on Amazon because it saves yourself a trip And the thing is, you don't know if it's at the store until you get there. So why not just save yourself the hassle and go to Amazon, and you'll more than likely find the book there. Sometimes you run in a situation where it might be out, but most of the time, you'll find what you're looking for. So yeah, like look at Amazon. Amazon's great. So like some products I recommend for this week is The Right Side of History by Bishop Barrow. It's a really great book. I'm in the middle of reading right now. It's really great so far, and it delves into like how the West, how America in general came to be, like how where the values of America like rooted from. So you got that book. You got Reasons to Vote for Democrats by Michael Knowles, and yeah, again, it pains me to actually promote Michael Knowles because, I mean, why would you do that? But again, his book is great, so I'll give him that. Then you have the Tears mug. Then you have the Pocket Constitution, which comes in handy. Like, it's very easy to handle. You can, as it says in the name, you can put it in your pocket, and you always have it ready. And it has the entire Constitution, like, ready to go. So got that. You got like different t-shirts and all that good stuff. You can find that in the links description below. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next week. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the God of Freedom Show.